Hey everybody, John Morris here. Welcome to another Tuesday live Q&A where I answer your questions about web development. Now, a little different this week. I've got Periscope going on over here. I've got a live hangout on air going over here because I have a lot of people on YouTube who obviously would like to join in the fun as well. Let's see. No go with Squarespace. It's easier and cheaper. Okay, thanks for that. We're going to dive into a number of questions that I've been asked over the past week and over time that I'm going to be answering for you related to web development. Now, if you're new to the show, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and writing in noob in the comment section so I can say hi. I've got about 5 different questions here. I'm going to try and go through these real quick. I don't want to take a bunch of your time, but these are, again, questions that I've been getting, common questions I get, and I want to make sure and answer those for you. Again, if you're new to the show, the replay will, of course, be live up on Periscope over here for 24 hours, so you can check it out over there at periscope.tv/JP Morris if you want the replay, or I will be putting this up on YouTube at youtube.com/John Morris video. If you have a question, feel free to ask it live, and I will try to answer that question, even though it's not on my list over here. Or if you have a question you think of after the show's over, feel free to tweet me at JP Morris, or if you're on YouTube, you can ask me over there as well on one of the comments on my channel, whatever you prefer. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into these questions that I've got. And looks like cool behind your board quotes. Oh, appreciate that. Yep. Just be awesome. It's my, that keeps me focused and keep me motivated. Appreciate that. All right. So the first question that I have here is one that I get a lot. And so I just kind of want to answer it. People who watch a lot of my videos over on YouTube, of course. Hey there. Watch my videos on YouTube, see the different text editors that I use. And so they want to know what text editor do I use and why. So obviously people have their own opinions. I started out, you'll probably see some of those YouTubes. I was on Notepad++. That's a pretty basic one. It's an editor that's really just basically a plain text editor. It does do syntax highlighting, and that's about it. And I started on that one simply because I probably didn't know any better, and it was just simple and easy for me to use. I was just starting into web development, and I really didn't want to get into something super complicated. Thanks for joining. Sorry, I missed who that was, but thanks for joining us. So I didn't want to pile a bunch of stuff for me to learn, including an app for writing code on top of all the code I was trying to learn. So I just used Notepad++. Then as I got further along and was learning more and felt more comfortable taking on a bigger IDE, I started using NetBeans. A big reason why was where I was working at the time was using Subversion. It had Subversion built right in, and I needed to connect to those repositories. So I used NetBeans. It was pretty simple, had syntax highlighting and code completion, and has lots of things. It's a pretty great editor. It is big, and so it seems to take up a lot of resources. I always did have some issues with, seemed like every time I ran it, my computer would bog down quite a bit. It's probably typical on Windows, but so I used that for a long time. And then I started getting into wanting to do some more, having a little better access when I was mobile because I was traveling more. And so I started out trying Chrome Dev Editor, but it doesn't really sync. And I was using my Google Drive to sync files, and it wouldn't work. And it was kind of a makeshift solution until I got onto what I am now, which is Nitrous Pro. And Nitrous Pro it's a paid app. You pay a monthly fee, but it essentially has a Chrome app, it has a Windows app. You can use it. It's a browser editor essentially, but it's synced across all of your devices. So I can code on my desktop, and then if I open my laptop and open the app, all the code is synced and so forth. And so for me, that works the best simply with traveling and using different computers and so forth. Everything's always synced, and that's probably the most important thing for me. So I'm on Nitrous Pro. I believe the URL's nitrous.io if you're interested in it, and I love it. So that's what I use and why. Next one is one I got this week, but also one I get asked quite a bit, which is, can I make my whole living as a web developer? So can I, make everything that I need to make as a web developer? So I think this is something for people who are maybe kind of getting into this and want to know if this can be kind of their long-term career and if they can do this as their full living. The short answer is yes. That's what I do. That's what probably thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people throughout the world do, is make their entire living as a web developer. So yes, you can definitely do that. Some statistics for you, just maybe to help you out with your thinking. The median income for a freelancer is $29 an hour, which is probably more than what a lot of people make at their jobs. So the hourly rate, and I can tell you from experience, if you get good, you can definitely charge more than that. So that's not the upper limit by any means. As the average annual salary in the United States for a web designer is $64,000 a year, and the average income for a web developer is $76,000 a year. And also 53 million Americans who are freelancing each and every year. So, or freelancing in the United States right now. So there's plenty of opportunity out there, plenty of ability to earn your income as a freelancer. So yes, definitely you can do so. It takes work. You got to be willing to market yourself. You got to, be willing to do the work, but you can definitely do it, and you can get to a point where you work from home and all those sorts of cool things. All right, next one is one I get a lot. Again, I want to just kind of address, and that is, where's the source code? So I get a lot of people, different YouTube videos and so forth. Where do they find the source code? Most of the time, you're going to find the link to the source code in the description of my videos. So if you're looking for source code, go to the description for that video and you'll likely find it there. If not, for some reason, then you can always go to johnmorrisonline.com/training. And there you're going to see a number of courses that I have available that are free courses you can take that come with source code. So if you're going through a course and you want the source code for it, then you're probably going to go to johnmorrisonline.com/training, and you can get the source code there. If not, then you can also always go over to johnmorrisonline.com/resources. There's a code snippets section down at the bottom, and you'll be able to find all of the kind of one-off source code that I have in those code snippets. All right, next, do I need to learn how to use a CMS like WordPress? So I think the short answer is not necessarily. You don't have to learn how to use a CMS. You can build websites that aren't CMS related and so forth. However, most of the time, for most people, I'm going to say that I would recommend that you learn at least WordPress. Now, I know there's a lot of drama out there and a lot of debate out there about the different CMS and so forth, and we could debate that all day. But WordPress, I believe the latest I saw was getting up close to 25% market share. So at some point in your career, you're probably going to encounter WordPress. So you're going to want to know how to use it. So yes, I would say that it is probably a good idea to learn how to use WordPress, because you're going to have clients that are going to ask you, if you know WordPress, or you're going to not be able to get jobs because they want someone who knows WordPress. It's just such a big, it's kind of the elephant in the room when it comes to web development. And look, forget all that stuff about, just straight up, forget all that stuff about which CMS is best. Should WordPress be as popular as it is? Its code is junk, blah, 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 blah. Forget all that stuff. When it comes to your career, you're probably going to encounter it. You're probably going to have a project where someone wants you to do something with it. So yes, I think you should learn WordPress simply because it's such a big part of the community that you can't ignore it, or you can only ignore it for so long. So, yes, I think you'll open yourself up to a lot more opportunity and quit being, especially, you know, people who are kind of snarky about WordPress. There's no point. You're probably right, but who cares? You're gonna encounter it at some point. So, yes, learn it. All right. What's the final question then here is what's the right path, what right learning path to take when learning web development? So I get this question again, something I get often, probably every week. I get a question about, what should I learn? And I've done a podcast on this where I go in really deep about this. I think the name of it is Why Does It Take Forever to Learn How to Code? That you can go to my YouTube channel. It's on there, youtube.com/John Morris Video, and check that out. But I don't think the path is necessarily set in stone for everybody, because everybody's ultimately going to have a niche that they end up in. To me, the most important thing is you finding your niche and then mastering the skills you need for that particular niche. So what I recommend if you're just starting out is that you dabble. So you try a bunch of different things, learn some HTML and CSS, learn some JavaScript, jQuery, maybe do some Node, maybe PHP, MySQL, dabble a little bit and try to figure out what it is, what your niche is. Now, you identify your niche by, is it something you love to do? Do you enjoy doing it? You have to enjoy doing it if you're going to do it on a successful level. So do you enjoy doing it? Is it something that you're good at, or that you can be good at, or that you want to be good at? Are you willing to put in the time to get really, really, really good at that thing? And then the last one is it something that other people will actually pay you to do? Right? So use those things. Think about those three things as you're dabbling, and try to really hone in on your niche and find your niche. That's the most important thing. What I find a lot of web developers do when they start out is they try to learn everything. They think that they need to learn all the stuff that's out there when it comes to web development. There's 1,000 different skills out there that you could learn. But the truth is, in your career, you'll probably use 50 or 100 of them on a regular basis, day after day after day, when you kind of land in your niche in your career. So there's a lot of things that you don't need to learn right away. So you find your niche, then figure out, okay, these are the skills I need to learn in order to be able to create this thing day after day, month after month, and people will pay me for it. So that's the route that I suggest you take. Now, when you're dabbling, you can follow kind of a pattern in terms of the best way to kind of go about learning web development. In my opinion, you need to start off with HTML and CSS. Pretty much every other language on the web is about creating HTML and CSS. So you need to know those things before you can really do anything else. Then I recommend you go into, a lot of people go into, from the interactions I've had, and I know I did this, a lot of people go into PHP and MySQL at that point. But I recommend you go into JavaScript and something like jQuery, because I know for me, when I went from HTML, CSS, and then learned PHP and MySQL, coming back to learn JavaScript was very difficult for me. Actually, it threw me off because I had such a mindset of PHP and MySQL, and JavaScript just seemed weird to me when I came back to it. I don't know exactly why. It's hard for me to explain, but I would recommend going right into JavaScript and learning that after HTML and CSS, and then get into PHP, MySQL. And after that, to me, those are the core things that you need to learn. I know there's a lot of stuff out there that's popular, like Node and Angular and all these other things, but those languages are still really the core of what you need to know as a web developer. You need to know those things first, and then you can fill it in with the other things, in my opinion. So if you're going to dabble in that order, and then find your niche. And once you find your niche, then you can really hone in on the skills that you need to learn in order to master that particular niche. And then you can start freelancing, or maybe you want to try and go get hired somewhere where they do that particular thing, or you want to build your own app that you're going to sell to people or use to make your income. However you end up doing that, it's important to find that niche first, then master those skills. All right, so those are the questions for this session. I appreciate everybody joining live on Hangouts on Air, probably over on YouTube, I assume, and then Periscope over here as well. Now, again, if you'd like to catch the replay, if you're just jumping in late, or you missed this session live, you can catch the replay for 24 hours on Periscope at periscope.tv/JPMorris. You can also, I'm going to be posting this up live on YouTube, or not live, but up on YouTube at youtube.com/John Morris Video, so you can check it out there as well. Now, if you have a question you'd like to ask me for the next session, again, you can, of course, subscribe on YouTube. I assume you'll get notified when I go live. Periscope, periscope.tv/JPMorris, so you can get notified when I go live there. Or you can simply just tweet me the question during the week over on Twitter at JPMorris, and I will try to include that on the show, although I do give priority to live questions. So if you want to make sure it's going to get answered, join us live and be sure to ask your question live. All right. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you next time.